Today we are going to be looking at the Faber-Castell Black Edition colored pencils. What I have here is the 50 set, which I do believe is the biggest set. Now, I was kind of confused because as far as what I could find, the biggest set I could find was this set of 50, but I have heard that there is a set of 100, but it may not be available for purchase in the US. Maybe if you're in Europe or Germany, where Faber-Castell is based out of, you have access to the 100 set, but I couldn't find the 100 set available anywhere for me to purchase here in the US. The biggest set I found was this set of 50. So that's what I have here. Now, these are supposed to be super soft. They say on the back that they are extra smooth, super soft lead for rich, brilliant colors, ideal for light, colored, and dark papers. And this is like a special kind of box that I think you can fold up into like a pencil holder kind of thing. We'll see. My box is a little bit, I don't want to say beat up, but I don't know. You can kind of see like on the edges here, it's a little bit kind of, it's a cardboard box, so it's not the most resilient. It was like that when I got it. You know, Amazon loves to ship stuff just in a plain, like, they've been using these craft kind of mailers lately that don't really offer a lot of protection, so not a big deal because I'm probably not going to keep them in the case anyway. But that's the box that they come in. I believe these, I guess these should come up really well or show up really well on toned and dark paper. We will test that in this video. So let's go ahead and open up these pencils. Okay. I love how old Faber-Castell is. Faber-Castell guarantees customer satisfaction since 1761. Older than the United States of America, which is not that old as far as like history and countries go, but okay. So they come out like this. Okay, I see. So this outer box didn't matter. I thought I was gonna have to do some kind of weird origami thing with the box to make the holder, but it looks like it's pretty much in here already. So I'll go ahead and just pop this up like this. Wasn't this cute? Isn't this cute? That little Faber-Castell logo and little drawing, which is the logo. I just noticed that. But in colors, and then we got Faber-Castell Black Edition, and it just simply pops out into a box like that. Maybe I should keep this in here because this is pretty compact. I might keep them in here. Okay, so let's look at one of the pencils. As you can see, the pencils themselves have a black barrel as well as black wood. They are a triangular barrel, which is supposed to be a bit more ergonomic. If you've used like the Staedtler brand of colored pencils or like their Tri-Plus fine liners, you know, you'll be pretty familiar with the triangular barrel shape. We've got the Faber-Castell branding here. We've got a color swatch on the end. And then I believe this is a colored number, but there is no color name on the pencil. They do have names because I was looking at the information on the website when I was trying to pull some information on these pencils, and they do have names, but they're not on the pencil, which is kind of a bummer. They're also not listed anywhere on the box either, which I don't know. I really like color names because it's just easier for me to remember a color name versus a number. But it is what it is. At least they've got the number, because I've had pencils that don't have either one, and it's that I don't understand. So that is the pencils. Now, as far as the sets these come in, this is the biggest set I was able to get. This is the 50 set. You can see all my finger grease on the black. Okay, anyways, they also come in sets of 12. You can get a set of 12 in a metal tin or in a cardboard box. The 12 set in a metal tin is $10.99 is US dollars. The 12 set in a cardboard box is $6.99. There's also a 12 set of neons and pastels, which I checked, those colors are not in here. So if you have the 50 set, the neon and pastel colors that are in that 12 set of neons and pastels are not included in here. That is $6.99 as well. There's also a 24 count, that's $13.99. 36 count, that's $20.99. A 50 count, which is what I have here, is $29.99. And like I said, I couldn't find any mention of a 100 count set on Faber-Castell's website, at least their US website. Of course, if it's not available, I guess they wouldn't talk about it. But so I don't have the price for that one. And those prices are all the list price. So that's the maximum price that you'll end up paying for these. Of course, if you get these from like Amazon or something, they are usually going to be less than that. I think I paid under $20 for this set. So I'm going to go ahead and swatch these out. I really like the little box. It even stands up like that. But I like this little holder. I can't get it to open now. Okay, I think I'll keep them in this. I actually like this. So I'll go ahead and swatch these. I'm going to swatch them on white paper as well as some black paper. We can see if they show up really well on black paper, like they're kind of saying that they should. And I will rejoin you all after that. So here we have the completed test sheet. I'll go over that more in depth here in a second. So I am going to go over the completed swatch chart really quickly. So here is the completed swatch chart of all 50 colors. If you would like to download a blank copy of this swatch chart and fill it out yourself, it is available to download as a PDF file on my blog, which is artbyness.wordpress.com. So as you can see, it's a pretty decent mix of colors. My only maybe complaint is that I don't think there's very many like deep violets or just dark purples. You have violet, that's really about it. They also have a color that's interestingly named blue violet. This one right here. That doesn't really look like blue violet to me, but that's what it was called. So I think that's really my only complaint. It's a pretty good mix of colors. Sometimes with I feel like a lot of colored pencils, especially if they're kind of these 50 is not a super small set of pencils by any means, but it is smaller compared to like 70 or 100 or 150 or God forbid 300. Um Sometimes they tend to be really heavy on the greens. This one I don't feel like is too heavy on that. I did feel like some of the colors were quite similar to one another, like this 714 and 726. You can see the difference. I'm not going to say like they're indistinguishable, but they are quite close. I also felt that Crimson, which is this 733, and Blue Violet 749 were also pretty close. Once again, not like you can't tell the difference between them, but fairly close. I also did a swatch on some black paper. I don't normally swatch colored pencils on black paper because I don't typically work on black paper. But since these are considered the black edition, and I think they are kind of being marketed as, you know, showing up really well on black paper, I wanted to go ahead and swatch them on black paper. So this swatch chart I made by hand, and the writing up here in the grid and the numbers were done with a Posca pen. So that's not the white pencil, but this is the white color pencil. So as you can see, the colors show up really well on black paper. Even the black you can kind of see on black paper. I actually think they look more vibrant on camera than they do in real life, but they still come up, they still show up really well on the black paper. So now we will get into the test sheet. Now this test sheet is a sheet that I developed myself. I need to digitize it and put it up on my blog so that you can print and fill it out if you'd like to as well with any brand of colored pencils that you have. I've been doing this by hand. I've been, I think I did it all like once by hand, and then I've been tracing it after that. Um, but this test sheet goes through a series of different tests of the colored pencils. The first test here on the upper, zooming in a little bit, the upper left is just a basic swatch of 6 basic colors of red, purple, blue, green, yellow, and orange. The numbers above the colors are the just the specific color numbers that I used. So as you can see, they're pretty decently pigmented. One thing I will say about these pencils is I think, now this is mixed media paper, so that's why quite a bit of the white of the paper is showing through the color. But I do think that these pencils perform, I don't know if perform best, but I think they are most enjoyable to use if you just kind of press down rather than trying to do a whole bunch of light layers. But we'll get into that here in a second. This next test on the right here is the color mixing test, and with this test I simply mix 2 colors to see how well we can mix colors to create new colors. So we've got red into blue, which makes purple, yellow into blue, which makes green, and yellow into red, which makes orange. As you can see, they mix pretty well. Color mixing with colored pencils is definitely something that can be done. Um, and I think it's really useful if you're not trying to make like completely different colors like we are here. But it can definitely be done, but you are going to have to work it a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and go in with a colorless blender marker just to make the blend a little bit more, what's the word? A little bit more clean. That's not the word I wanted to use, but it will suffice. But it will just clean that blend up. So that is the color mixing. They mixed really well. Honestly, I haven't mixed any colored pencils that didn't mix well. Um, but maybe one day. So now we're going to move on to the layering test. With the layering test, I do 10 individual layers of the same color to see how dark they get. as you can see, the pencils, they layer pretty decently. You know, they go from pretty light with one layer to pretty dark with 10 layers. As I was mentioning before, I do think that these are just a little bit more fun to use with hard pressure. And I usually work in really light layers, but something about these pencils, and maybe it has to do with how vibrant they are, because I do feel like they are quite vibrant and pigmented, and you know, they show up very well on the black paper. I think something about maybe that formulation just makes it easier to work with if you just go in with, you know, pretty heavy pressure and get a lot of that really nice color down on the paper versus just working in a ton of light layers like you may usually do. And then the burnishing, like I was saying, I did do a couple of layers and then I went ahead and burnished them, burnished the color there. Like I said, if you're somebody who likes to work heavy handed and you don't really like to work in a lot of light layers, I think that you'll enjoy these pencils because they are very um, bright and they go down really easily that way. Okay, so now to the live test. And by live, I just mean I'm going to record that part. We've got the blending tests here. Got a series. Oh my goodness. Gosh. Okay, I was trying to zoom in for you. You know what? I can zoom in with my phone without moving the whole arm here. Okay. All right, so we've got a series of 5 blending tests here. I'm going to blend these pencils with really 4 different mediums because this first one is blending just with the pencils themselves. And so I blended with 3 colors here. I don't remember what the colors were, but this is a series of 3 different colors going from dark to light. The first one here is just with the pencils themselves, just those 3 colors. I felt like they were actually really easy to blend together. Pretty enjoyable experience blending them together. I think the lead in this pencil, I really like the lead because it's a soft lead. It does wear down. I wouldn't say it wears down abnormally quickly, like Prismacolor has a tendency to do, and also like the Color pencils that I looked at not too long ago. Those really, you know, I had, by the time I finished just these tests, I had pencils that were like half the length of when I took them out the box. So while they don't maintain a super sharp point for a very long time, they don't wear down so quickly to where you are constantly sharpening. So that was nice. And like I said, I think 50 times now, they are very well pigmented. So, you know, getting this gradation of color was pretty easy just with the pencils themselves. So for this second test, I'm going to use a colorless blender pencil. I'm going to sharpen it really quickly. I'm going to be using the Prismacolor colorless blender pencil. It is quite short, but that's okay. And let's go ahead and blend this. Okay, so that is the result with the blender pencil. I think it blended out pretty nicely, filled in the rest of the tooth of the paper for the most part. It also wasn't extremely difficult. It's kind of fresh on my mind because the last pencils that I tested were the color pencils, and that took so much effort to blend with a colorless blender. I mean, it was really aggravating my carpal tunnel and pain in my arm. This was much easier. So I think they blended really well with the colorless blender. Now I'm going to go in with a white color pencil. We're going to go ahead and use the white pencil that came in the set. Sharpen that. And let's go. All right, so there is the pencils blended with white. I was kind of um, interested to see how that would turn out because, like I said, the pencils are really, really pigmented and they show up really well on dark paper. So I was kind of concerned that maybe blending with the white pencil that came with the set would really overpower the pigment that was already on the paper, and it didn't. As to be expected, it did lighten it a little bit, but I think it blended pretty decently. So now I'm going to go in with Gamsol, which is an odorless mineral spirit, and is typically my favorite way to blend colored pencils, either with Gamsol or a colorless alcohol marker. So we're gonna go ahead and blend with the Gamsol. Okay, so there's our blend with the Gamsol. Performed as expected. I do like Gamsol because it really blends the colors really easily. You don't have to apply a whole bunch of pressure like you do with the colorless blender pencil, and it doesn't typically change, the color of the. It doesn't really change the color, I guess, because you blend with white, it makes it a bit lighter, So there's Gamsol. Blended really easily with the Gamsol, and I do like the result. And so now I'm gonna go in with a colorless blender marker. I think these are all the same. They're all just colorless alcohol marker ink. This particular one is an Ohuhu one. Um, so go ahead and okay. So that is our blend with the alcohol marker. I think that turned out really really nice and smooth. I think that's probably my favorite is with the alcohol marker. I also feel like it really brought out a little bit more of the depth of the color. So that is the 5 blending test with just the pencils, a colorless blender pencil, a white colored pencil, Gamsol, and an alcohol marker. Okay, so we've got 2 more tests that I'm going to do here, and I'm going to do an eraser test where we oh my god, I almost said it again. We test how easily these pencils erase. I'm going to use 2 different erasers. I've got the Tombow Mono plastic eraser and then the Tombow sand eraser. Typically, the sand eraser is going to erase a lot more cleanly than just a plastic eraser, but they should both pick up some pigment, so let's go. Okay, so that is the plastic eraser. Erased pretty decently. I was a little bit concerned at first. It didn't really seem like it was coming up very much, but with a little bit of work, it lifted. So now I'm going to go in with the sand eraser, which is typically going to erase cleanly and a bit more easily. Because sand eraser kind of works by actually scraping some of the paper off. So as you can see, we got a much more clean erase. Also, just the shape of this eraser lets you work a little bit more like in a tight space. This eraser I have here is also quite it's not worn down a lot, but it doesn't have that sharp edge like it does when it's brand new. So they are kind of erasable. I will say that it's going to take a little bit of effort to erase them, but It's definitely doable. I have erased other pencils that came up easier than that, so generally speaking, I wouldn't be using colored pencils with the intention of erasing a whole bunch, but that's just me. Okay, so now a water solubility test. We're going to see if this pigment moves with water. It shouldn't because these are not water soluble pencils, but just because it shouldn't doesn't mean that it won't. So I'm going to take a paintbrush here just with a little bit of water. It is just barely damp. It's not like soaked by any means. So we're just going to see if that moves. Okay, so it looks kind of bad, but honestly, in defense of these pencils, just going over it maybe once or twice with some water, it didn't really move. Um, like I said, the last video I did before this one was the color pencils, and those moved very easily with water. It took like one swipe over, and it looked like this. This took pretty concentrated effort of repeated application of water to get it to move. So if you were just to go over this maybe once, a little bit with water, it won't move. But if you were to end up going over the same spot multiple times with water, or painting over it with water like you were trying to get it to move, it will. Okay, so now the last section we've got here is a basic coloring test. We've got a leaf, a flame, fire, and a water droplet that I've drawn and colored with just these pencils. I haven't used any kind of blending mediums. I've just used the pencils themselves. And I think they turned out pretty decently. I enjoyed working with them. I did feel like maybe for these specific, the greens not so much, and not even so much with the fire, with the kind of reds and oranges and yellows, but with the water, I did feel like I was a little bit limited when it came to the amount of blues that I had. I kind of had to use a bluish green that I wouldn't typically use as a mid-tone because there just wasn't a lot of just kind of light and dark blues that weren't um, a bit purplish. Pull this out so you can see the swatch chart again. But this is kind of all of our blues right here, and you can see quite a few of them are kind of purplish. We've got like this light blue and bluish turquoise that are just kind of blue without much other um, influence from other colors, but then the others are kind of into the more blue green family. So I guess once I actually used them, I did feel like it was lacking a bit on the blues. But as far as coloring with the pencils, they were nice to use, easy to use. They blended together easily. They went down easily. They also were not extremely waxy. I'm not sure if these are considered a wax-based or oil-based pencil. I don't think they really perform so much like a wax-based pencil. I mean, not a wax-based. I don't think they perform very much like an oil-based pencil. But as far as wax-based pencils, I've had issues in the past with pencils that were wax based, that when you do a lot of layers, like what I would typically do with this blending test and also the coloring test, they start to build up a lot of wax on the paper. These didn't do that, so that was a plus for me. They blended together really easily. I think I do see a little bit of a sheen like you typically get with wax based pencils, but nothing too crazy. And yeah, so if you would like to see this test on the results of this test, in an image format that you can look at and analyze if you so wish. I do have a written form of this review on my blog. There's also that it also tends to have just more information in it because it's written. I don't go, I kind of go off the cuff with the reviews that I do on video. I have a couple of notes, but when I write the review, I've got to actually like put thoughts down. So there is a little bit more detail in the written review on my blog, which is artbynest.com. You can also, I will go ahead and digitize this and put it on my blog as well, a blank version of this if you would like it to use with any other brand of colored pencils that you have. And yeah, so that was my review and test of the Faber-Castell Black Edition colored pencils. I really liked them. My expectations weren't very high because I had used some Faber-Castell. I think they were like the Eco Grip pencils, kind of a student grade. They come in a red box, and I was not a fan. To me, they were really hard. They weren't very well pigmented. They were nice to hold because they were triangular and they had the those little grips on it. But beyond that, I did not enjoy working with those pencils. So I was expecting these to be somewhat like that since these aren't, artist grade colored pencils. But they were definitely better than those pencils. So if you've used a Faber-Castell more student grade colored pencils and you weren't a huge fan, um, I would suggest giving these a try. I also think these are nice to have, even as a complement to other, if you've got like polychromos or Prismacolor or something like that, because the colors are really, really vibrant. And if you definitely like to work with dark paper, tone paper, black paper, I think these are like a must have because they show up very, very, very well on the colored paper. So thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you've got any questions, comments, feelings, thoughts, prayers, whatever, leave them in the comments below. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.